You think the most dangerous part of building wealth is being broke? You are wrong. The most dangerous moment isn't when you have nothing. It's when you finally have something. It's that specific moment when the grind starts to pay off, when the panic subsides, and you finally feel like you can take your hands off the wheel. That is the exact moment the car crashes. There is a specific number where this psychological shift happens. It's a number that kills more financial futures than market crashes or recessions combined. $250,000. If you are approaching this number, or if you've just crossed it, you are in what climbers call the death zone. You feel safe, but the oxygen is running out. Why does an intelligent, disciplined person, someone who ground out 60-hour weeks for years, suddenly decide to self-sabotage right here? Because at $250,000, your brain starts lying to you, and if you don't know the script of that lie, you will believe it. So let's talk about the $250,000 rule, and why your next decision will determine if you become a millionaire, or just another person who almost made it. So, what exactly is the $250,000 rule? It is not a trading strategy. It is not a secret asset class. It is a psychological diagnosis of what happens to your brain when you finally get some breathing room. Let's be brutally honest for a second. In today's economy, especially if you live in New York, the Bay Area, or even Austin, having $250,000 invested does not make you rich. You aren't flying private. You certainly aren't retiring tomorrow. But here's the trap. It feels like you could for the first time in your life. You have options. You have the down payment for a solid house. You could buy a luxury car in cash if you wanted to. You have a cushion. And that cushion is exactly what suffocates your discipline. Think back to when you had $10,000. Do you remember that paranoia? You watched every transaction. You knew the price of gas. You checked your banking app 3 times a day because you were terrified of sliding back to zero at $250,000. That paranoia vanishes. You stop checking the app. You stop looking at the prices on the menu. A $200 dinner doesn't make you sweat anymore. A market drop of $5,000 feels like a rounding error. You think this is financial freedom. It's not. It's apathy. Your survival instinct just turned off right at the moment you needed it most. Why is this calmness so destructive? Because while you are busy feeling comfortable, there is a silent mathematical problem eating your future alive noon that explains why people who earn millions still retire broke. Here's a number that should scare you. The average American will earn over $2 million across their lifetime. $2 million. And yet the majority of people reach retirement with less than $100,000 to their name. How is that mathematically possible? How do you misplace $1.9 million? The answer is uncomfortable. The money does not disappear. It leaks. It leaks through what we call the golden handcuffs. You work hard, so you tell yourself you deserve the upgrade. It is the Netflix subscription and 3 other streaming services you do not watch. It is the Amazon Prime boxes showing up 3 times a week. It is that quick weekend vacation to Cabo or Miami because you were stressed and needed to recharge. None of these feel like mistakes. They feel like rewards. They feel like compensation for the 60-hour weeks you are grinding out. But here is the brutal truth. You did not lose that money. You ate it. You drove it. You wore it. And at $250,000, this leakage stops being a drip and turns into a flood. Because now you have enough margin to make mistakes that look like success. And that leads us directly into the first major trap waiting for you. I call this the illusion of arrival. It is the moment your brain decides you have crossed the finish line even though you are barely halfway there. Picture a random Tuesday morning. You open your brokerage app or check your 401k. You see green, a lot of green. Your portfolio is up $12,000 in a single day. You did not work overtime for this. You did not stay late at the office. It just appeared. Your brain instantly does the math. That is more money than you used to make in 2 months at your first job, and suddenly you feel it. The urge? You tell yourself 3 dangerous words. I deserve this. You have been grinding for years, so why not book that first-class trip to Hawaii? Why not trade in the reliable Honda for the Tesla Model E or the luxury SUV? You have the gains to cover it. The math works. But here is the line you need to hear. You are not rich, you are dangerous. Because that $12,000 gain on your screen is unrealized. It is a ghost. It exists on a server. It can vanish next week without asking for your permission. But the $60,000 loan you just signed for that car, that is very real. That monthly payment is locked in for the next 5 years. You're making permanent decisions based on temporary feelings. And every dollar you spend on these upgrades does not just cost you a dollar. It costs you decades of compounding that you will never get back. But spending money isn't even the worst way to destroy your wealth at this level. The real danger comes when you stop trying to spend it and start trying to outsmart it. Trap number 2 is the overconfidence monster. This is where the Dunning-Kruger effect quietly takes over your portfolio. You lived through a market dip, you did not panic, you came out ahead, so your identity shifts. You stop thinking of yourself as a saver. You start thinking of yourself as a genius. You start with boring index funds. That is how you got to $250,000. But now boring feels slow. You hear a coworker talking about a tech stock that doubled in a month. You see a thread on Reddit about a crypto coin going to the moon. And you think, if I am smart enough to save this much, surely I am smart enough to pick a few winners. So you dabble a little bit into options. A speculative real estate deal your buddy pitched you a few thousand into that hot sector everyone is talking about. You tell yourself the most expensive sentence in the English language. I can afford to lose this. Can you really? Mathematically, yes. You can lose $10,000 and still eat dinner tonight. But you are missing the point. Being able to lose money is not the same as being able to afford the consequences. One confident mistake at this level does not just delete money, it deletes time. A $20,000 loss right now wipes out 2 to 5 years of compounding growth. You are not just burning cash, you are burning your freedom. But even if you resist the urge to gamble, there is one final trap that pulls you in. It is the one that happens when you look at your phone and see that your friend just bought a bigger house than yours. Trap number 3 is the comparison ladder. This is the quietest trap, and it is the most destructive. It starts the moment you look sideways. You feel proud of where you are, then you open Instagram. You see a college friend posting photos from a 5-star resort in the Maldives. You check LinkedIn and see a former coworker announcing a massive exit or a promotion to vice president. Or you see the parents at your kid's school driving the latest Range Rover while you're still driving your 5-year-old sedan. Nothing about your life changed. But suddenly your $250,000 looks like pocket change. You start to feel that terrible sinking anxiety. I am falling behind. That is how the trap works. You never look down at the millions of people you passed. You only look up at the few people ahead of you. And that feeling of being behind forces you to do something stupid. You try to sprint. This is where leverage enters the chat. You take out a home equity line of credit on your house. You borrow against your portfolio. You use debt to speed things up. On paper, it looks brilliant. You borrow at 6%. The market returns 10%. It feels like free money. It is not free money. It is a loaded gun. Leverage does not just amplify your returns. It amplifies your mistakes. It turns a standard market correction into a forced liquidation that wipes you out completely. A normal bad year becomes a permanent fracture in your financial life. You are not broke. You are not desperate. You are just impatient. And impatience at this level is fatal. So how do you survive these 3 traps? The solution is not about getting smarter. It is about mastering the hardest skill in the world. The art of being boring. Here is the part most people do not want to hear. The solution to all these traps is not doing something smarter. It is resisting the urge to do anything new. In a culture that worships hustle and constant optimization, doing nothing feels wrong. It feels lazy. But in investing, activity is the enemy of returns. Financial advisors get paid when you move money. Trading platforms make money when you click buy or sell. Every voice on CNBC or YouTube has a financial incentive to make you feel like you are missing out. They sell complexity because complexity looks like value, but at $250,000, sophistication is not your friend. Sophistication is the enemy. The real antidote is what you refuse to do. No clever relocations, no complex insurance products, no attempts to outsmart a market that is already smarter than you. The winners at this level are not the ones with 6 monitors and a Bloomberg terminal. They are the people who buy the S&P 500, set their contributions to automatic, and go walk their dog. They understand a secret that the smart people miss: intelligence looks for improvements. Discipline protects momentum. Doing less feels impossible when everyone around you is doing more. But you have to ask yourself a serious question. Do you want to look rich, or do you want to actually be free? If you choose freedom, you have to embrace the boring. Because once you commit to being boring, the math starts to do something absolutely magical for you. Let me show you the math that changes everything. At $250,000, an average 8% return generates $20,000 a year. That is, $20,000 you did not trade your time for. You did not answer emails for it. You did not sit in Zoom meetings for it. Your money woke up, went to work, and earned it for you. But here's the statistic that will blow your mind. Going from $0 to $250,000 is a grind. If you invest $10,000 a year, it takes about 13 years of blood, sweat, and tears. But to go from $250,000 to $1 million, it takes roughly the exact same amount of time. Did you hear that? The first $250,000 takes 13 years. The next $750,000 takes the same 13 years. Most people think $250,000 is 25% of the way there. Mathematically, that is true. But in terms of time, you're already halfway to the finish line. This is what we call escape velocity. Your money is finally rolling downhill instead of you pushing it up. And this momentum gives you something far more valuable than numbers on a screen. It gives you options. When you have $5,000, you have to tolerate a toxic boss. You have to swallow your pride because you need next week's paycheck to pay rent. But at this level, the dynamic flips. You have what we call walk-away power. You can negotiate for a raise without fear. You can quit a job that is destroying your mental health. You can take a pay cut to join a startup or start your own business. You are no longer working because you are desperate. You are working because you choose to. And that shift in mindset is worth more than any luxury car you could ever buy. But there is one final rule you need to remember. It is the only thing standing between you and that $1 million portfolio. Here is the bottom line. Reaching $250,000 is not the finish line. It is just the qualifying round. You have proven you can save money. Now you have to prove you can sit still. The game has changed. Getting here required effort. Staying here requires humility. So I want you to remember 3 simple things. Number 1, you are not rich yet, so stop spending like you are. Number 2, you are not a genius, so stop trying to outsmart the market. And number 3, boring is beautiful because boring makes you free. You are standing at a quiet fork in the road right now. One path looks exciting. It is full of up bros and leverage and stories you can tell at dinner parties. That path makes you look rich. The other path is invisible. It is silent. It is slow. But that is the only path that leads to a life where you own your time. Most people never realize they had a choice until it is too late. Do not be most people. You have spent years building this engine. Do not break it trying to make it go faster. Just get out of the way and let it run. Thanks for watching.